Call to order. Roll call. I see we are all present and accounted for quorum. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Rosenberg.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this juncture in our meeting, we have a public comment section for those who have identified themselves with the administrative secretary that chooses to make a comment. Please identify yourself at the podium, speak directly into the microphone, state your full name and your residence. Please be watchful of the light that comes on. You have 3 minutes, and once it starts red, that means your time is over. Do we have any public comment?
I have none.
None. All right. Let's move forward to presentations. There are no scheduled presentations tonight. We'll move to the consent calendar. Minutes of the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreational Commission held on August 20th. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes? Sorry?
Did you have some?
No,
Oh, I do.
I was going to get approved if you
I'm
did.
working on it. Thank you. Okay, so I didn't say I wanted to see nachos. I said people asked for nachos that were at the movie night.
All right. Can you put that in context? Context.
Oh, all right. So at the last, I know you're all dying to know what that was about. At the last movie night, I was standing there talking to our staff, and people were coming up saying, "Do you have nachos? Do you have nachos?" And I said, "Well," and I said, "Staff, do we have them?" They're like, "No." So I said, "Well, I'll ask for it." So that's the whole, I was telling you that people were asking about it. And I don't remember saying I want to do a historic art display at Whispering Hills. I don't remember saying that. I think I think what I was talking about is community orchard, and then maybe partner on with some of the historic trees that we had. Well, whatever would be easiest for you. Okay? But that's what I think I was getting at, is to kind of combine the historical aspect with the community orchard, but not a particular art display. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Duly noted.
Motion to approve with corrections?
So moved. Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, please press your appropriate button. Unanimous, thank you. All right. Moving to discussion items, sports tournament policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. I'm going to give this presentation on the sports tournament policy, and assisting me will be our Recreation Manager, Rob Gaylord, and Senior Recreation Supervisor, Bill Barry. Bill just got a new title, so he was kicked up to Senior Recreation Supervisor. So this evening, the item before you pertains to a sports tournament policy, and as the Commission is aware, one of the things that you looked at closely when we opened the sports park, it actually predated my time here in the city, but you looked at the field allocation process, which is obviously a discussion about how do we allocate the fields, for whom was the park built? And I think that's the fundamental question that you're looking at with the sports tournament policy, as you did with the sports allocation policy. And for the field allocation policy, the Commission is aware that the Commission and the City Council created basically an 8-tiered system of user groups. Broadly speaking, there are resident and then non-resident groups. And the way the system works is the groups with the most tend to get filled out time. And I think there's sort of recognition that we're trying to really reserve the for our residents. So the sports tournament policy that's recommended by staff, it really takes a nod from the field allocation policy in that we have identified 11 weekends in 2016 for which we will have sports tournaments. And these are really, believe it or not, these are about the only 11 weeks where we really have the time free where it doesn't interfere with league play or the seasonal rehabilitation and the closure of the parks. We have those 11 weekends for sports tournaments. And what staff is recommending is to split those to allow 6 of those tournaments for the resident-based group and then 5 for the non-resident groups. And if I can skip back to the summary here, just to summarize what staff is recommending, we've identified the 11 weekends to accommodate the sports tournaments, and our intent is to publicize the dates each fall for the following calendar year. And beginning each January, the department will accept the applications for sports tournaments, and the first 2 weeks will be a priority period for the resident-based user groups. So during those 2 weeks, anything that we receive, we're basically going to give the priority to the resident groups. And after that, we'll give consideration to any other tournament applications that we receive. I would actually like to strike, in the summary you'll see number 5 there. I apologize if that's there. That was an error. That was part of an earlier version. I'd like to strike that out. Yeah, please, if we can delete that. That was originally, the thinking was provide a minimum of 6, a maximum of 8 for the resident groups. I think it's a cleaner split if we just say 6 and 5. 6 for the residents and 5 for non-resident groups. And just a brief little background on how this past year was our first year of operation, and poor Bill over here received about 100, a little bit more than 100 requests for tournaments. And the way, in the absence of a policy, the way he sorted those out, he essentially took all 100 applications, put them into 2 piles. The pile where people were requesting tournaments on dates that we knew we couldn't accommodate, so those were eliminated. And we were left with a pile where we could conceivably accommodate some of the tournament requests just based on the dates. And then the first thing he did was he took care of the resident groups, just as we would with the field allocation policy. It was based on the number of residents. And after that, it was really just based on a number of factors: the type of tournament, the weekend that was requested, the nature of the tournament, the size of the tournament. He considered the impact of traffic and parking and things like that. And we ended out with 11 tournaments. And I mentioned here in the report, the vast majority of those were for non-resident groups, which is fine. We accommodated AYSO Soccer. They had 2 tournaments. And the OC Strikers, which is a club soccer team, they're resident-based, they also had a tournament. Our third resident group that we have, at least through the field allocation process, which will be Lake Forest Little League, did not request a tournament this year. So this is just an accounting of how we accommodated the 11 tournaments this year. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to any questions that you might have.
Comment?
Yeah, and thank you. This was good. And I was reading through this at home, and I had a lot of questions. And I think for the tournaments, I'm not as focused on resident base, which will make Bill crazy because I drive him crazy with resident base stuff. But I think when you say that, just because whoever's sponsoring it's resident base, the teams that are coming in aren't resident based, right? And so, I think we have to separate soccer and baseball. I think we had a big issue. I don't know if it's a big issue, but when the AYSO had their first tournament, my goodness, there must have been 3,000 people at the sports park, and we got a lot of complaints because Pony Baseball and Little League was going on. They couldn't fit into the sports park. So I think we need to look at a couple things. I think we need to look at what kind of numbers are you bringing in. But I also, I don't really feel, and you know, I'd love to hear Jim's opinion on this too, but I don't know that resident base is a big deal in this one. I kind of feel like we leave it open to a first come, first served basis. But I'd like to hear Jim's feel that, because I don't know soccer well enough to have a great answer on it. For baseball, there really won't be too many local guys that'll do it. But I'd like to hear from Jim. Maybe, I don't know if you don't mind commenting on that.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, because I had intended to offer some commentary on the whole subject. A couple things. I think the definition of like local groups, from experience, you hit the Little League right on the head that they won't have a tremendous number of tournaments. Okay, that's one. Number two, from 15 years of experience with AYSO, they had 2 last year. They probably won't ever have more than those 2 again ongoing ad infinitum, because everything else is local league play, playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I think to alleviate the issue of last year, when we look at these weekends, the soccer tournaments typically draw big crowds, very big crowds, is not to double schedule two sports on those 11 weekends. I mean, unless one is an infinitely small group doing, let's say, a basketball where they're inside, it's some kind of thing, 50 people, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to recommend that there is no cross-pollination of sports. From a standpoint of everything else on here besides SMAP and the basketball thing was pretty much a soccer tournament. Every soccer tournament is a fundraiser of some sort for the sponsoring group. To respectfully offer a comment on, when you're looking at factors of who to allocate to based on application, they're all the same. They're all fundraising. I'm very curious where the comment came from that my tournament on the club side is used for seating, if that's like an added advantage. Seating in the club in Cal South, the club governing body in Southern California, is totally based on match play during the season. It's like the European promotion and relegation based on what you do during the season. What they will do during a tournament that may be misconstrued as seeding, if teams enter a tournament and they schedule, let's say, teams at the gold bracket, which is a high bracket, they don't want them playing bronze teams and beating them 12-0. It's no good for either one. So they'll schedule, but that's their internal issue. Gold versus gold, silver versus silver, silver league versus silver, bronze versus bronze. So that really should have no bearing. To somewhat agree with the resident-based, I would think the only concession is our sports park. It's our city, our residents. The only concession maybe that should be given is, like I said, that 2-week period, that January 1st through January 15th, the AYSO, since they have local representation, even though the body of that tournament comes from all over, both tournaments. And the second one they did came to include teams from Washington and state of Washington and Northern California, et cetera, et cetera. The local region, if lucky, has maybe one team in it, two teams, because that's a major quarter of the country playoff type tournament. So it's different. Give them to, and if they don't respond in that time, like anybody else, it's first come, first serve, and it should be. Okay? Because they're all equal. They're all trying to raise the money to support their programs, et cetera, et cetera. What I would like to see included, because you mentioned a tournament packet that they need to submit with the application. Okay? There is a marketing element to these tournaments. Besides, they put up websites for them, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that marketing packet, or what they turn in the city, should include parts of their marketing packet that will show what they are doing, and that may be a factor that staff may want to consider, what they are doing to also support the businesses in the city, i.e. hotels. In their packet, and what they have on their website, are they recommending, I'm just thinking in the neighborhood, the Prominence Hotel, the Hampton Inn, the Hilton Garden Inn, Courtyard by Marriott, which are close? Or are they just saying, here's a compendium of local hotels, here's a link, which gives you every hotel from Irvine to Manhattan Beach, and, are they specifically recommending maybe restaurants to go eat at? And the way they do this, and I've done this, is they actually go out locally and say to the merchants, we are looking at holding a tournament in Lake Forest. We're going to look at your numbers, bringing in 3,000 people. They need rooms. Can you work with us to give us, as designated a tournament hotel, a good rate? We'll fill your house, that type of thing. And that, I think, is important. And I would personally just like to see a draft of what you're going to ask them to do and include. Because then, if you have to make a difference between anyone on this group or any of the other 100 that may have come to you, and one just is looking to get fields, and the other one is obviously looking to get fields too, but also is willing to promote a benefit to the city, which will benefit everybody from tax revenue on and on. Well, and they're looking for the same date, maybe that should be the tiebreaker besides the coin flip, that they're willing to go that extra mile and market towards us. But otherwise, besides the elimination of any two different sports doing something on the same weekend, I don't think anybody would really totally get that bent out of shape if in January they were told, okay, the world can apply. It's like what we do with our registration for Bunny Blast, for Snowfest, for everything else. Residents, and then the week later it opens up to the world. I don't think that anybody would really kind of object to that.
No, I think it's good.
And everybody who does these kind of things, if they don't know by January 1st what they're going to do at this level until the end of that year, 365 days later, their administrators are way off base. Because these things are planned out date-wise a year to 2 years in advance, when you're going to do what. So that shouldn't be an excuse, well, God, we didn't know and it's too far away in the future. It's, they're running a business, we're running a business in that sense.
Can I ask you a question on top of that, Jim? I think that marketing piece is very strong, and I'm wondering, do we have a packet, whether it's through the city or one of our local groups, that we can offer up, like, here are local hotels that you can reach out to that are friendly for this kind of thing? Or do we have restaurants, that maybe will, throw out some, like, I don't know, Chili's will throw out some discount for the families coming out and stuff. I mean, I don't want to overburden the staff with putting like something like this together, but certainly if we had that opportunity, I know the local businesses would appreciate it, because I think that's a great idea, Jim.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
From a standpoint of the city putting that together and doing that, that puts the city, in my personal humble opinion, in a little bit of a precarious position.
Oh, and I'm not saying that they get the actual thing, but they just give a list of people they can reach out to.
Okay, but then, let's say they
the
put,
chamber would be good.
who knows, and somebody else sees that, it's in the neighborhood, maybe that isn't as, we know this, the Outbacks, the Pepinos, the Chili's, I'm trying to stick in this general area that are what I call always city-friendly and business-smart at the same time. But, I'm trying to think, Miguel's is up there, okay? And the guy in Miguel's see, wait a moment, the best way is to let them go market it. Let them go out themselves. If they really have an interest in doing it, it's not that hard to do, to figure out, Sports Park is at this address, where are the 5 closest hotels? Stand in the Sports Park, you can see 4 of them, and then go in and establish that relationship between themselves.
Very good comments. If I could take a moment just to comment on that. I think your comments are right on target. Our plan basically is we're going to gather some tournament packets from other cities just to kind of see how they're making it work.
Okay.
And then we're going to work with our economic development department to figure out how to replicate something like that can be successful. And when we do have a model, we're going to bring that to you to see that.
And also, when AYSO had their regional tournament, we gave them all we gave Doug packets of all where the hotels were.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but they really should be able to go. Again, everything that we put on staff may mean that something else, we want to be helpful as much as possible, but I think of all the things we want to do, like to do, and are wishing to do. I think if somebody has some skin in the game themselves, the whole thing becomes more meaningful, because then they become totally vested.
So this was very well thought through from the staff, and I can, as I was reading through it, unless there's other comments or concerns, I'd like to put this to a motion in place to accept the recommendations for organizing sports tournaments, to have it go forward to the city council. Is it going to the city council, or is it going strictly to for our approval?
I don't know for sure yet. It could go to the city council.
It could?
It could possibly go to council.
Okay,
So I
well,
do
as far
encourage you.
as our endorsement, Is there a motion being put forward?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to endorse it with the striking of the fifth item in there, the striking of the seeding tournaments, seeding to make it look like there's, maybe some kind of a advantage to that, and to definitely lock on these dates for those 11.
All right, would you restate the motion with including your amendments?
Okay, to accept the staff recommendation, let me try to repeat here, the staff recommendation as submitted to us with the changes of one, eliminating, this is on page 3, item 5. No, it's not on page 3. On page 4. Eliminate item 5 in there. On page 2, eliminate that sentence on the seating portion that for tournaments, because it is common that all tournaments act as fundraisers, and just leave it period there, eliminate the rest of the sentence, and to also lock on that those are kind of firm weekends that we can do and offer them up based on what we talked about, a 2-week pre-reservation period to the local Little League or local AYSO as hosts, and after that it's open to everybody.
Yeah, so basically that would eliminate on page 1 and 2 the groups, right, where we have the 8 groups listed. Again, there's...
I don't think it's bad to list the 8 groups from a
Yeah,
standpoint
but then
that...
I think then we get into some stickiness. I think we leave it open to everyone with the exception of the ones how you mentioned it, because...
Oh, okay. I don't disagree with that. I think
yeah,
what you're saying
I just
is-
think that because there's no tournament that's going to be all local participants.
No.
Correct.
And
And if I can clarify, I provided the 8 groups just to give a little context
Yeah,
of
okay.
where the sports tournament
because
policy
if
is
it's
coming
first
from.
come, first serve after, let's say, January 15th, if all of them are from Group 8 on January 16th, they're first in the door.
Correct.
I want to make sure that this has been recorded accordingly, so can we get a playback from staff or Carol on this?
Okay, I got a little bit confused at page 2. So this is what I've got. Motion to endorse recommendations with the striking of the 5th item on,
Page 4.
and accept staff recommendation with the changes of eliminating item on page 4 and eliminating item number on page 2. And
No. It was on page 2, eliminate the remainder of the sentence while it says, say it is common for all user groups to organize sports tournaments as fundraisers. Okay, and then eliminate the rest of that sentence. Just, it's an explanation. Tournaments are basically fundraisers, which they are. And I would say leave everything else in. I agree with Director Wasserman about just the listing of the 8 groups is just informational, as opposed to setting a pecking order, because we do say that after that initial 2 weeks, it's open season. It's open for everybody.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Well,
Carol's got it.
before we do that, I want to play back just to make sure. Carol's
Okay.
captured.
Okay, this is what I've got. Motion to endorse with the striking of the 5th item. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Motion to endorse accepting staff recommendations with the changes of eliminating item 5 on page 4 and eliminating page 2, eliminating the sentence regarding seeding the teams.
Seeding tournaments, right.
You have a second?
I'll give it to you.
Is that enough, or shall I add more?
I think that
I
was.
think that was,
I'll second that.
That was right on. So we have a second. Press the button.
All right. Okay, it's unanimous.
All right. Well, that was unanimous. Good work. Next item under discussion action items is Commissioner Park visits.
Thank you, Chair Scher. Members of the Commission, as the Chair mentioned, this pertains to park visits. This is an idea that actually came from the Commission, and I briefly mentioned it in the Director's comments in the last meeting, but because it wasn't actually agendized, we were prohibited from developing the idea and discussing it further. At the last meeting, I was asked to agendize this, and there was a suggestion made that we schedule quarterly visits, and the reality is that we can do the park visits as frequently or as infrequently as the Commission would like. I would recommend that the visits to the parks be voluntary on the part of the commissioners, and I'll allow the Commission to provide the direction to staff as to how frequently. We did recommend that we initiate these visits, perhaps meet at City Hall around 5:30 p.m. That gives us some time to go to a park, and then come back in time for the Parks Commission meeting. Thank you.
Discussion, comment?
I think that sounds great. Thank you.
I'm assuming we're going to have an agenda-driven visit based on certain objectives?
I can develop sort of a checklist of things you might want to look for. I don't know that there would be a specific agenda, but there would be a checklist of things you might want to look for. For example, the condition of amenities. Things that I look for in parks include just how are people using the park? Who's there? Are they using the park in the way that we thought they would? Is it consistent with the design of the park? Those are some of the things that I look at. Do you see a need for, as the city has a regular program where we refresh or renovate parks on a regular basis, perhaps we take a visit to a park where you think this is a park that really needs some refreshing. Those are things that you might look at.
I like what you're saying, and to build on that, I like to have some professional staff there to point out specific things, and or from a maintenance perspective, from an improvement perspective, it doesn't make too much difference, to give us some insights into point and discuss, or point,
Sure.
Be aware, oh, this is interesting.
I would certainly be present for each visit, and then very likely one of the two recreation managers also.
Would there be any preparation that the commission needs to make in ahead of the visit, or would we need a heads up on things that we should be looking at?
I would give you a checklist ahead of time, just things you might want to keep in mind when you go out there. And really, it's just for your benefit to familiarize yourself with the parks and the amenities and how, kind of who's there and how people are using them. And really, I think you can show up at 5:30. We'll hop in a van and we'll go to the chosen park for the day.
And when will you kick it off, the first event?
It's really up to the commission. We can kick it off as early as the October meeting or whenever you.
Yeah, I think suggestions would be appropriate.
No, he has some dates that he's listed on here. That I
We have,
Oh.
so staff provided just a tentative schedule. This is if we did quarterly visits. So we have the October, these visits coincide with the Parks Commission meetings.
Oh, hold on just a second. Also, it's a good way for all of us to be on the same page when we're talking about a project or a capital improvement. We all know, oh, right, when we went to Cherry Park, we did look at that gazebo, and yes, it really does need to be, done something with. It just is a nice way for all of us to know what the heck we're talking about.
The only thing I'd like to maybe work in there, sorry, Jim, as I just cut in front of you, maybe the new dog park up at Baker Ranch. That might be good.
Sure.
To take a look at while it's under construction. I think it would be good for us if we are, because I think we will build other dog parks. We kind of need to see what we're looking at, what are some of the stuff, and maybe the folks from the builders there could meet with us and give us some insight.
Can we swap that schedule a little bit with Baker Ranch being the kickoff of the October?
I don't think they'll be ready yet.
Will they be ready by that time?
Actually, the park is scheduled to open in the middle of November, and as
middle of
commissioners, you'll
November.
all be invited to that as well.
So that means we can do it in February?
Sure, I can swap that for Cherry Park, and
Yeah, I like that idea, if we could swap, the earlier the better. And Portola, you have it down for April? Is that about right?
yes, and that I don't anticipate that park will be under construction, but at least we can go out and visit the site and get another idea of what we're faced with.
So, just from a sensing of the commissions, as those dates conflict with anything business or personal on?
No, those are our
That's our
meeting-
meeting date, I mean, showing up early, is that going to be an issue or for anybody? Okay, sounds good.
Okay, comment, por favor? Thank you. Not hearing objection, move on. I think this is a good start. I really do. We used to do this on a kind of a regular basis, and I think it was, number one, obviously educational to do it as a group. I think most of us pretty much have been in and out of all of these sites at one time or another. That's if you're he's a very well-known manager type in, I would consider it high-paid recreation, by the name of William Belichick, who for about 42 years, he's got a great program on TV right now called Do Your Job, which is really, really phenomenal. My thing on this is I think the idea is marvelous, but I think once a quarter, if we do it that way, and we have an inventory right now of 29 parks, soon to be, in our lifetime, 31 with the dog park, and what's the one? Is it not
Portola and Whispering Hills.
Whispering Hills right now is the wasteland of the park inventory. So, thank you, sir, for making that one up too. But we've got a lot of parks, so this is a 5-year plan, to do it that way. I think the idea of it being voluntary is important because of people's schedules and people's commitments and whatever. But I would like to see it basically done, at least for maybe picking out certain parks, that we do it on a monthly basis with coinciding with our meetings. We're looking at an hour and a half earlier. We're not looking at giving up a whole day or half a day or something like that. I think we also should give some, as Victor did, to the order in which we do them in and what we're looking for. And I would definitely like to see that checklist from staff that we could all have the thing. If I'm got 20 minutes to spare to go somewhere and I'm driving by, pick any one of the 29. Probably park the car and go walk in there for 10 or 15 minutes. And it would be great to have that thing, that checklist that would be uniform in a way to all of us, that you go into a park and you just fill it out, maybe just, here, email it into staff, and staff can compile, other information. But I would also like to recommend that if we do that, we give some thought, we still have, even for the first one, another month, to which park do we want to visit. I think Tamarisk, that's a great, let's go look and see. It's something that's been done very recently, upgraded, and we've vetted through a lot of kinks that were there right after. I think there's some that maybe are in more demand. I think looking at some of the things that we are looking at on other plates with Foothill Ranch community that has that one feature, amenity, or whatever you want to call it, a rink that is being used or not being used. Is it being used on a permitted basis or a non-permitted basis? I don't have the answers, and being in Sin City this last week, didn't have the time really to get that information, but that rink has potential for a lot of uses and maybe can then satisfy some other requirements as well. And the global picture would say, well, then we don't need to look at that for here. We could maybe start with it here and do that instead. So my thought process when I first read this right before leaving, when it came up on the website, was that Foothill Ranch would be a great place to start off. And I don't think we've been up there. Loretta, correct me if you're wrong. If I'm wrong. Well, no, you went there personally to do something, yeah, which is a great thing also. But as a group, I think the last time this group was up there was when we did the remodeling, which is over 2 years. It was over 2.5 years ago or something that was the last time we were there. So, and that's a park that really, I think, can be programmed with all of the amenities and features it has to be utilized, decent parking, and I think, to some extent it's underutilized. So I would like to make that suggestion. We can then discuss that with staff.
Well,
First.
I think this is excellent input, but given that this is something new that we're going to be doing in a more structured approach, that we can make changes on the fly, without a doubt. We can make adjustments on the order of parks. I'd like to keep conservative to once a quarter, though, and then we'll see how things move along. We can always expand the frequency as we deem appropriate, but for now, I think once a quarter is a good starting point, and then if we decide as a consensus to increase it, that'll be fine. So I
What
think,
if we got a consensus at this time? I'm willing to throw it on the table. It's voluntary.
Just one more comment. We also have to be aware of the fact that it's going to get darker soon. And that's why we usually did these in the summer. So, FYI.
my reluctance to commit to it now that's part of it, but it makes a long day for some of us, and I would prefer we keep it more on a conservative basis. Now, given it's a voluntary thing, and I understand that, so for those who decide that that's what they want to do, there's obviously no objection. But as far as I'm concerned, I would find it difficult to commit to a monthly situation. It would have to be a pick and choose for me. I don't know how the others feel, but
Well, let's find out. That's the easiest way to do it.
All right, so maybe I can make a suggestion based off of what Loretta said. Perhaps we keep the schedule till the end of the year and then start after January, potentially looking at monthly to see how that works out. But I think you're right. I think
Once it gets dark.
it's going to be dark at 5 o'clock in the next month, right? And so,
Go to lit parks. Go to places.
yeah, well, no, you're right. We could go to the sports. I mean, we could, and I'm not opposed to it. I think with the holidays coming up, and it's not really an excuse, but I think I wouldn't be opposed to doing it in October, November, probably skip December, and maybe start in January and just look at it. And again, if people can't make it, they can't make it. We have to be careful about how many we send, right, with a quorum or what have you. And so, what are the so.
We're extremely cautious about the brown area.
Right. And
Extremely cautious
so I
about
think that would be my only reservation, is that if it is a burden on folks to get there, I don't have a problem with it either way. I'm fine going once a month. I think it's great. I mean, I'm happy either way with this one, so.
Well, why don't we, in that case, Francisco, I mean, your turn too. You should weigh in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, these Thursdays are scheduled off in the evening for this, so I'm committed.
Could you do it on a
5:30,
monthly
I could do it,
basis? Okay. Well, then why don't we, and I agree with the December thing, and that's getting the darkest month. We, maybe look November, you do got Thanksgiving, but maybe, buy into, let's do an October one, and then starting in January, do it on a monthly basis as an amendment, if that, or a recommendation, I don't know what the proper word is, at this time, to do it once a month, and then if, I may be saying it in June or something that comes up that I have to be somewhere else, and that's going to happen. That's life.
Well, I'm sorry, there's not a motion on the table yet. Okay.
I'll make a motion then. How about this? How about we do the park visits? We as scheduled here, we're going to do the October, and then to start in January, we're going to attempt to do a monthly visit. And again, these are not required. These are not mandatory. We need to have a head count in advance, so there's no Brown Act issues. And I'd like for us to be very flexible with which parks we visit. For example, with Village Pond Park coming up, we may want to move that to the top of the list as things progress. So I want to have some flexibility, but I like the schedule now. Like I said, I'd like to go see the dog park, because I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that's all coming through. So does that motion make sense? I talked way too much on that one.
Sure.
No, I think
Do you want me to repeat it?
She's got it. All right.
You got it?
Start in October, once a month, starting in January 2016.
Correct. And we'll start with the Barker Ranch, the dog park. Actually, I don't know that it's going to be open in October. I think we should.
That was for
Maybe January.
January we do.
Got
So
it.
I still would like to go to, I think Tamarisk is a good one for us to start with because of the ADA stuff. I'd like to see how that all went down, because I think that was a great work by the city staff and the local community. So, yeah, that'd be great.
I will second that motion.
Very good. July 2015 recreational report.
Yes, this is on August activities. The first one I'd like to comment on is the summer concert finale at the sports park. On August 23rd was the final concert titled Lake Forest Palooza. This special concert included 3 bands, which included Dee Dee Benamy, the 80s All-Stars, and the Suburban Legends. The concert attracted an estimated 1,800 people. Other attractions at the concert featured photos with lookalikes such as Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and characters from Star Wars, and of course, Nectar. There was also an art show sponsored by Saddleback Art League, featuring 7 local artists. The next event was the Autism Skate Clinic and Band Night at the skate park. On Friday, August 1st, over 500 visitors attended the ACE Skate Clinic, organized in collaboration by the ACE Skate Foundation. The clinic afforded children with autism the opportunities and the basics to learn the basics of skateboarding in a comfortable, controlled environment. The event featured food and refreshments, as well as displays from local artists and live music provided by local artists. Grinders Burgers sold food and donated the proceeds to the ACE Skate Foundation. And this activity is our ongoing efforts to, continuing efforts to offer quality recreational experiences for the special needs community. And our last event, our senior citizen mini excursion to the old Anaheim Packing District. On Wednesday, August 25th, 13 seniors journeyed to have lunch at the Anaheim Packing District, which was built in 1919. The packing house has been converted to a food hall reminiscent of markets in South America and Europe. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. No director's report at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I will move right into commission comments. No necessarily order, but I'll start to my left with Francisco.
I just had a quick question that someone brought up to me. I know that there's a map of all of the parks that we have in Lake Forest. Is there a map that has all of the trails that are accessible by the public?
County has one.
I'm not aware of any.
I
Within
think
the
we
city?
do on the website, but I
Okay.
can research that and give you a call tomorrow.
Okay.
And if we have something, definitely email or send you the link.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Thank
Thank you.
I think the county put one together.
I think so.
Yeah. Because I remember
Okay.
we did the, when NRPA was here in Anaheim, we opened up the trail right down here. And so they were handing out trail maps.
Yes. And that was all my comments. Thank you.
It was more like a question, I think, than a comment. Commissioner Workmeister.
Before I start, it seems like we have a great group of kids in the audience from ACT, and I was wondering if someone could maybe come up and chat with us and tell us why they're here. Is that okay? I know I'm not really...
Do you have a spokesperson there that would be willing to come up to the microphone? There you go.
Now, see, Josh used to play baseball with my son, so I think Josh should have to
Please,
go up there, too.
please identify yourself by name and tell us a little bit about the group.
My name is Monique Villasenor. I'm a recreation supervisor with the city. We just currently restructured our ACT program, Advisory Committee for Teens. So this is our fresh group of, starting out the school year, of ACT kids. If you want to talk, you want to introduce yourself? We have a couple of kids in our next meeting. We're going to be voting on a board, and so we're going to try to put that on one of you guys' agendas to introduce you to them and stuff like that. So this is one of our candidates currently. So introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Josh Peters, and I'm part of the ACT program.
Great. Thank you for coming. Tell them what we do, what we're going to try to do.
What we're trying to do is do like a food drive in 3 different places to put food, and we decorated trash cans to represent the food drive. And we're trying to work with the dog shelters to do an adopt-a-pet thing in future months. So, thank you.
So that's kind of what they're working on right now. So this is their introduction into the Parks and Rec Commission.
Well,
So-
thank you for coming. Very nice. Okay, back to Commissioner Workmeister.
Yes.
Can I mention something? Francisco, your question about park trails, there's a link, there is on the website something that says park trails. And if you click on that, you go to the trails within the city's parks, but then there's a link to OC Parks, and you can click on their trails and you get a map. Okay?
Okay. Just getting quickly back to the Act Kids, I think that's awesome, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys too. So, so thank you for coming tonight, and that's great. Comments tonight, I'll keep them short because Jim may want some of my time, but we were at the conference this week, and the conference was fantastic, and it was my first time going, and so I learned a lot. I brought Scott back a ton of paperwork he'll probably throw away, but there was a lot of pretty neat vendors, and the thing that I liked to see was how technology and just how, I think one of the things that struck me, especially in the opening remarks, was how Parks and Recreation are involved with the well-being of the citizens, and I hadn't really thought of it that way before, and when I heard that, I thought, wow, that we are contributing to folks' health, and so I think, and that's something I'd like for us to continue to keep in the back of our minds as we move forward with programs and stuff. And I don't have a lot else tonight. I think you guys do a great job. I have received a ton of compliments about the adult softball league. That is incredibly popular, by the way. It's I guess for guys my age that are trying to live their golden age years or something, I don't know. But you're doing a very good job. Everyone's very happy. So.
Bill's very modest. We're up to 60 teams.
Good.
For the fall.
Yeah, it's great. I hear from these guys. In fact, I don't know if Josh's dad is playing, but he was a pretty good ball player. So, yeah, I figured he might be. So, because he's always trying to live his golden years too. So, yeah. So anyway, again, just great work by the staff. A great summer. I mean, you look at the numbers, and it's just fantastic again. And I wish Vicki was here because I'd like to thank her because I know she did a lot. But all of you guys just do a tremendous job. And so thank you very much. And Carol, thank you for keeping us organized as always because we definitely need you. So with that, I'll say goodnight and thanks everyone.
Commissioner Herring?
Oh, okay, well, since Scott couldn't go to enter, I kind of got it back.
Loretta's so good about that.
You'll have fun with that. And Francisco, since you couldn't come either. Oh, wait, I switched. Hold on, because you guys have separate bags. Wait.
I was wondering why she was so busy.
Took that one.
Yeah, is that what it was?
Sorry. They're pretty much the same. I told you, I can do that. Anyway, so here, for instance, you get some other goodies, because you've got like a blow-up microphone and a blow-up air guitar. But Scott has other goodies. There's a few different things, for the most part. Okay.
More coming, but his car is not unpacked yet.
Yeah, his car isn't unpacked. But anyway, I'm so sorry. It was a really excellent conference in regards to the sessions that they offered, the chance to network with people. I met wonderful people and got a lot of really good ideas. Let me just tell you, one of them, I was talking to a gal in Florida, they have a men's support group for the seniors. We never thought of that. So I think maybe we ought to think about that one, because it's mainly women that come to the senior center, and there's a few men. A few good men. And I mean, well, we can throw it out there.
Marines are taking credit, so.
Oh, right, okay, anyway. And there's a bunch of other things, but it's still percolating in my brain, all the stuff that we did today. I went on the history tour. It was led by the Pawn Stars history expert. I learned so much about Vegas. Unbelievable. And some of the sessions I went to, there was one about sports parks, is what it said, but it was really about skate parks. And we're doing everything right. Yeah, so I was very glad to hear that. I went to the evolution of multi-generation recreation centers. Lots of good ideas for us. I love that is it the Surgeon General that spoke of, that was very impressive, plus our general session speaker, Gil, was really good. Jim and I both went to the Virtual Senior Center presentation. Wow, that was interesting. I mean, it's still very small scale, but I think with technology, it's going to get better. And then I went to the Communication Recreation Center Design Glitches and Building Blunders. Whoa, that was really good. We learned a lot there, too. I also went to the Contribution of Parks and Trails to Community Health, Reality, Relevance, and Results, and Healthy You Resources for Community Gardening and Nutrition Education. So so that was NRPA. And like I said, excellent sessions. It was hard to pick one when it was time to go. Anyway, also, someone was asking me if we would consider maybe doing an ultimate Frisbee group. Is that what they call it?
Frisbee.
Uh-huh. Like maybe at the sports park?
Yeah, that'd be a great activity for the future. If you've ever played or seen it.
I haven't, but I know the Scouts play it at some competitions, and my neighbor's friend was asking about it. Right, but anyway, I'm just saying, let's think about it, okay? I also went and I sat in, but I didn't try to comment, on the Lake Forest Senior Advisory Board. That was good to know what they're up to. I also helped with Tustin's. They had a pasta feast for to raise money for their senior citizen center because they need new chairs. And I didn't realize, they said they have about, on average, 900 seniors daily there. I know. I was just blown away. I mean, it's a huge center. But anyway, the event was really fun, and it's, if we ever think about doing that, But anyway, it was well worth it. I also attended the Lake Forest the movie Big Hero at Pittsford Park, and I think we were handing out, was it glow sticks on something? I can't remember. Was it glow sticks on a string or something? Which was fine, and the kids loved it. But I'm watching the movie, and I see these glow sticks, and then I see them in the trees. So I know they were having a lot of fun. So, you get what I'm saying, okay? Anyway, I also went to the Baker Ranch. They had the Eagle Tribute Concert. That was good, except the sprinklers came on, and they had to stop. So I'm so glad we don't do that.
Water conservation, yes.
And, of course, I went to the Lake Forest, the Palooza concert and the art fair. I thought the concert was fine. My neighbors came with me. They all had a good time. They even bought stuff at the art fair, so our little party was great. And then Tustin also invited me to the opening of their brand-new park, Victory Park, over by the old helicopter base. And they've done a really good job on that. It's got they took the whole aviation theme and just put it in the park. So it's worth checking that. And I also checked out Irvine's new park they have there with some of that new development. They have like a whole lookout tree. It's very interesting, very different. And then I also went to our family camp out that we had at the rec center, sports park, and that was great. I enjoyed that. And I also want to say, when I was at NRPA, I also met a dog park consultant, and she said she would be more than happy if we ever have any questions, just contact her. She's willing to help, no fee. But she really has done her due diligence on researching dog parks, and she is the expert. So anyway, busy summer, looking forward to the fall. So thank you, and thanks that we could go to NRPA. All righty, there you go.
Wow, thank
I
you.
know. I did a lot. I wanted to
You're
share
taking
that.
some of Jim's time.
Jim, you have a very short amount of time, unfortunately, but it's your turn, Commissioner Rosenberg.
Sticks and stones won't break my bones. No. See the line? Vic? See the line? Okay. I'll just limit comments, make him happy. He had a birthday sometime this year. I didn't get him a gift, I think. So, NRPA, which the sessions, and especially the opening session, the speakers they had this year were phenomenal. The Surgeon General of the United States and a gentleman, Gil Penalosa, who is probably the most passionate individual I've ever heard when it comes to recreation and parks. And the man, his career spans the world, starting in Bolivia and now being on a worldwide consultancy type basis, and really set a tone and something that Jeff mentioned about recreation parks and the whole bit of what community services does is to benefit and make better the lives of people. And I remember I was telling Loretta that when I did my 3 minutes before the council last year, at the end of last year, I made the comment, included in the comment there, that I felt that this commission was not properly named, that we should be a quality of life commission when it comes down to it, and firmly believe that. The interesting thing, went to a lot of different sessions than Loretta did. We went to a couple together, but that I noticed was that you have some people who are subject-specific experts, but they're very hesitant at times to really give facts out, to dovetail on the program, the Virtual Senior Center, which we had talked about before and came up with. It's got to be something technology-based and computer-based and things like that. And there was a great pitch for it. It makes perfect sense conceptually. But then you're not getting into what's it going to really cost, which is not mentioned. What do you have to supply? What kind of training? What kind of whatever you need to supply? And she touted and showed a video where San Diego County had done some research, and they found out there were 20,000 pretty seniors in that category. A lot of them, I don't know if they're all 85, but they had a number. Their target number was 20,000, and they showed some videos and people that were involved, and then questions. And my question was, yes, how many people did you reach? What was the number? 100 out of 20,000. Okay, from a business standpoint, it's like, is this ongoing? No, not really, because this is a trial program. While trial programming was funded by somebody, and if they see that percentage, I need a calculator to figure one that low. It's hard. But what that says, and I went to another one this morning that dealt with the National Physical Health, trying to get the letters right, National Physical Health, PH, and National Plan. And basically the message in there is, we really don't have one. There's a number of organizations, all 501c3s, who are trying to put something together and forming, coalitions and amongst themselves, as opposed to our government, besides some verbiage coming out, whether it be on a national, a county, or a city, or whatever level, and saying, this is kind of what we're trying to do, and this is what we're committed to doing. So there's a lot of work that I think as a group in a city, nationally, that really still needs to be done. I think we've just maybe scratched the surface. And we've done a great job in the city of scratching the surface, listening to what other people talk about that we have already surpassed and gone way past, and it's a new thing. The other thing that really hit me this time, and I've been to, this is the third NRPA, and I think I've been to 12 or 13 CPRSs, is not to be immediately enamored with somebody's success story, because everybody comes from a different part of the country. And what works in Tennessee, where there is a population base of 872, and Beaufort's going to move away next week, so it's going to be one less, may not work in an urban area, and vice versa. But to take the ideas that they present and see how you can make them work. And that's where I think the real value is of going and attending and seeing the input and the successes, and in a way the failures too, because you learn from those. Maybe not to step in those same landmines and do the same thing, and to benefit from somebody else's experience. But overall, I think it was a great conference. That part was very, very well done, the educational aspects. And, the exhibits, there were some interesting things that I'm going to put together and pass on some other things similar to the Ultimate Frisbee that were like little 10 by 10 corner booths that got to talking with them, and some great mental telepathy between people in the conversation of very inexpensive and easy things that can be done from the level of the people in the ACT group almost through seniors, with the same minimal investment, and just you need a little bit of plowing the ground and and to do some things. I commented right on the way home some of the other stuff that looks very pretty in that. It used to be in the old days you had it and it was either steel or wood. Now it's composite materials with bright colors, and basically does the same thing, but they've thrown in some verbiage. Well, it's educational. It's educational to slide down a purple slide more than it is to slide down one that's steel or whatever. But it was a good conference overall. Glad I went. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rosenberg, for your very brief comments. So always welcomed. Thank you. First, I want to say to the audience, when I was in junior high, where are we in grades? Junior high, 7th and 8th grade? I keep forgetting. I was sitting in the audience, as you were, and recognizing that, my gosh, Parks and Recreation is a profession that you can major in college, which I decided to do at Arizona State University, and did graduate work in the field as well, because it's such a passion. So you extend your lifestyle into your passion, and it always will be with you all your life in terms of your passions, and you never lose it. So that's why I selected that profession very early on in my career, although I have to admit I diversed into the business side of my career, but now I did the complete circle and coming back. But having participated in a fantastic conference, bringing people from all over the world, I met people internationally. I mean, from Pakistan, I was talking to someone from Karachi, Pakistan. And there were people from every walk of life, which allowed us to network and share ideas and get an idea of what the rest of the world is doing, because as a country of the United States, we are somewhat isolated from the world. We got 2 oceans. We don't have really that ability to easily integrate with other cultures. We got Canada to the north, Latin America to our south. But in reality, many of the Americans today, unfortunately, have not had the privilege of traveling abroad or traveling internationally to seek out new experiences. And it's very nice when you have people visiting from different walks of life, because you do get a feeling of other values that cultures share passionately as we share our values. Having attended a number of the sessions, and I have to say they were well attended. If I don't get there early enough, I didn't get a seat. So the floor and I got very much acquainted, to say the least. But because there's, 3,000 people plus that were there? I think there was probably more that I can see. I mean, it was hordes of people. I mean, just the feeling of Las Vegas in a convention center. I didn't see the daylight for 2.5 days. I mean, you just didn't go outside because they had an enclosed passageway from the hotels, a little tram that takes you to the conference center. A lot of walking. I don't think I've ever done as much walking as I have done.
You got your 22 minutes.
Did I ever? No, did I ever? But some of the sessions that I found of interest, more people are using Instagram. They were talking about social media and the impact of social media on leisure and parks and recreation. It seems very fascinating for city parks and recreation to incorporate social media and Instagram, Facebook, whatever. My niece and nephews tell me, hey, Uncle Victor, we don't use phones anymore. I said, what do you mean you don't use phones? So everyone's texting, everyone's using social media. So if you want to communicate with me, you better post something on Facebook. If you're not using Facebook, you're not into what's going on. Right, group? So you have to learn to work, you have to learn to communicate with your thumbs. Even though the person next to you, rather than talking to that person, what do? Send a text? You go texting back and forth. I'm still getting accustomed to that, quite frankly. But they did talk about the impact on social media on Parks and Rec. Instagram was identified as one of those medias. Behavioral-based leadership. Now, I'm not all that familiar with behavioral-based leadership. It was a fascinating session on how leadership has evolved from the telling people what to do kind of thing to understand of how to work with all different types of personalities and utilizing some very interesting concepts and adjusting yourself to individual ways of being influenced. Because they talked about leadership as influencing people, providing mentoring and coaching, and giving certain individuals help and self-identifying their total potential. Quite different than when I was coming up the ranks. And this is how leadership has evolved from the old school to the new school. I thought that was rather fascinating. They talked about making parks relevant. Realize that a number of parks, and it's true with the city of Lake Forest, we just inherited parks. I mean, they just were there. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason. No one really sat down and designed a park from the ground up. It just happened that the residential districts started building themselves around an open piece of land. And before you know it, we had residential development in the 70s. Most of the homes in Lake Forest, by the way, were built between 1970 and 75, right around that area. Most of the homes we live in today, except for the new construction up in Foothill Ranch, are 30-plus years old, believe it or not. So when the Baker family acquired the land, I might add, in the late 50s, from the Whiting family, who had it for many years. If you go back in history, I'm not going to sit here and lecture on the history, but you're welcome to come to Heritage Hill Park, and I'll be happy to take you through all the history and buildings as a docent, which I volunteer there. But the bottom line is that we were fortunate to have a lot of open land up in Foothill, Portola, that we're building homes right now. But there's a lot of history here, and when these parks were built, there was no rhyme or reason or even thought given to what the park's purpose was. It just happened to be open land, and someone decided, well, we'll do some sports, we'll do some this and that. The people from all over the country envy Southern California because of our weather. Our weather drives leisure style of activities. We are very outside-oriented, 365 days a year. That is not true with the rest of the country because they have weather issues. A lot of their leisure is inside during many parts of the year. And what weather they have, they try to take advantage of it, but nowhere near what we have here in Southern California. Coming up later in October is a busy month. We have a city activity which has received accolades through the years called the Haunt. It's coming up in mid-October for 2 days, October 16, let's see, October 16, 17, is that correct? Okay. Yeah, okay. So for you in the audience, please make sure you take advantage of it. It's an outstanding activity. It's at Heritage Hill Historical Park, corner of Serrano, Lake Forest Drive, right in the Bagels and Brew parking area. near Ralph's in that same shopping center. So please come. I can sit here and talk a lot longer, but I want to conclude that for those in the audience that have decided that maybe they want to look at Parks and Recreation as a profession, please do. You won't ever regret it. That's my commercial for tonight. Thank you very much. Yes. Well. Yes.
Add to what you mentioned on the Instagram and that. I think this city does a phenomenal job with the whole gamut of social media. Kalina Hahn, she's on stuff so quickly and uses all of the different tools that have sprung up. And from talking to her and talking to Hannah Shinhado and that, they can actually point to that as being a very relevant way of attracting residents to our events, and it's very, very meaningful. And but everything is Twittered, Instagrammed, Facebooked, whatever. All they use. She makes use of all of the different media, and very, very large following that way.
Thank you. Without further ado, meeting adjourned.